Hello ladies and gentlemen. Today's goal for this tutorial is to produce a tree similar to the one that you see here in my Blender. Some things I want to reinforce, make sure that we've got wonderful topology, meaning if I look around on this object here, I'm not seeing any triangles, I'm not seeing any n-gons, which mean polygons that have greater than 4 sides, 5, 6, 7 sides. And that means down the road, as I tap the Command R key on a Mac, I can very easily add these things called edge loops. And I can slide them around. I might add a branch here, so I might need some more resolution as I work through this. And if I can keep everything in quads, then my life is going to be a lot better in the long run. Also, as an end goal, even though I'm doing a low polygon model here, eventually I can add under the little, on the modifier tab here, under the little wrench, I can add a modifier called subdivision surfaces. And I can jack up my resolution if need be. Now this is for Unreal Engine, so I don't necessarily want my my poly count to go too high, but eventually when I want to smooth this out with subdivisions, I can get a very nice result using this wonderful modifier over here. I'm just going to shut that off. Okay, so maybe it's good to learn sometimes by making mistakes, so I'm just going to make a quick mistake. I'm going to use one of my favorite add-ons, and if you go under Edit, Preferences, and you just do a quick search there type in the word extra under add-ons, you'll find two, just type that in, extra. You're going to find two really wonderful add-ons that can give you some extra shapes, some extra curves. So I'm going to turn on extra objects. That means I can actually deposit a single vertice and start actually modeling from a single vert. Why am I doing this? I want to make an n-gon and show to you some of the problems that will crop up and maybe a way that you could fix it in the future. I'm going to go into my top view, and I have tapped the N key. The drawer comes out, and under View you can gain access to your 3D cursor's location. I just positioned it here. I'm just dragging the Y. I'm going to add there. That's where objects get created. So under Mesh, Single Vert, I'm going to add one single vert. I'm in Object Mode. I'm going to pop on into Edit Mode. Make sure I'm in Verts, Edit Verts. So you tap the 1 key, 2, 3 key. That gets you into the different modes. 1 will be Vert. I can highlight that. And now let's say I wanted to just sketch out a low polygon circular kind of shape. So I can highlight that vert, I can extrude it, I can extrude it again tapping the E key, I can extrude it again, extrude it again. I'm just trying to make like a hexagon here. I'm going to bring this back to the beginning and then highlight those two and tap the M key, and you can merge these 2 points at the center. Now, all's fine and well. I could start extruding this. Well, first things first, I'm going to highlight them all and tap the F key to fill it. That gives me a vert face, I should say. And now with that, I can begin to tap the E key and extrude my shape. And that's awesome because if I tap Command R, well, I can add edge loops, but you notice how this will not go all the way around the top. So edge loops break when they encounter a triangle or an n-gon. It did not traverse the top of that and down the other side, like I would expect. For example, with these happy quads here, I can see that everything goes around the entire object because it's slicing up quads. So how do I fix this? Well, I could do my best to try with the knife tool And it's nice that I already have this set up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, because I know this is going to work. But with my knife tool, I can slice this in half and hey, et voila. Now I've got myself, tap the return key. Now I've got myself 2 polygons, and each one has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So that's one way to handle that. And then when I extrude this, you can see with these nice quads, when I go ahead and try to do an edge cut, edge loop, it works perfectly. It wraps all the way around the geometry, and that's what we want. So it's not that you can't work with N-gons, it's just that from time to time you have to repair them. There's reasons why we would just leave triangles and N-gons well enough alone, but I want you to do your best for this process to try to keep yourself nice and organized. Now, the easiest way to approach this puzzle would be to, I'll just get rid of this shape. Let's throw a cube out. Our old friend Cubie. Heck, you know what? I'm just going to start with a plane, because really that's going to put my starting shape right on the floor. That's cool. Now watch this cool trick. I can just subdivide this up. I mean, I could just use subdivides, but I'm going to use the edge loop tool because I really like it. And I just mouse over once, it'll split it right in the middle, click. It wants to slide, hit escape. Let's put another one in, click, enter, return key, does the same thing. Now we've subdivided it manually. We could have just done a sub D, but now I can go around the exterior and grab the verts in the middle and tap S and scale them out. And this is giving me that hexagonal shape that I like to get started for my tree. And it's on the floor because I started with a plane. That's great. Now, in this mode here, in my face select mode, now I can just start going to town. I can start extruding. Now, with every extrude, I want to do a little bit of scaling. Extrude and scale. I'm doing this really fast. If I wanted more variation in my tree's trunk, I wanted it to bend around and wend, I could get into all kinds of fancy stuff. Oh, that was a mistake. So I'm going to G on Z and bring that back up. Okay, and I'm just going to keep tapering this off as high as I want. And I'm just giving myself, there's no real right or wrong answer here, as long as I can create some kind of an organic shape, like so. I made another mistake. So I'm going to G on Z and bring that up to the top, and I'm just going to scale that down to be a point, to be the top of my tree. Now I've got some parallel lines here. I don't like that very much. So now that we've got some nice topology, in edge mode, I can quickly just go all the way around the shape like so, holding down the Option key and tap the S key and scale it. Option key, and that'll give me an edge selection that rings all the way around nicely. Yeah, I'm gonna just mess around with the shape of my trunk. That's good. We can come back into this later if we wanted to. Yeah. Cool. So next step, what I want to do is start to pull out some branches. Now we could use one of the features that's really nice inside of Blender, which is to just click with our right mouse button and we can literally draw extrusions, which is pretty cool. The problem with that though is that depends on your way of making things. But if we just sort of willy-nilly start extruding out shapes, it might be problematic in the three-dimensional space, because when you're looking at a viewport from a specific angle and you start just drawing in one view, then it might look great in that one 2D perspective, but then you rotate it and things look weird. So I'm going to go for sort of like a more of a, I don't know, like a pear tree where the branches start to come out from below. So I'm going to give myself some more geometry down here with an edge loop. And this is where my first branch is going to come off. Here. Cool. And I have some choices to make. Do I want to grab a single polygon or do I want to grab a couple? See what happens when I go for a couple. So hold down the shift key and you can grab a couple of faces in face mode. And there's a couple ways to do this. We can just tap the E key and drag it out. And then rotate. Like so. Extrude. Scale it, because we want the branch to taper. Rotate it. Just tapping the R key. I'm switching between R, S, and E to extrude. So S, I'm going to scale it, taper it down a little bit. I'm going to rotate it, and then extrude it out. Scale it down. And then just look around at your shape. See if you like it or not. I don't like it because I want this branch to come out a little bit more. But practice, practice, practice. Undo, undo, undo. So I'm going to extrude just a little bit. I'm just going to rotate it, not so much this time. Extrude a lot longer, scale it. Extrude. Rotate it. Extrude. Scale it. Extrude. And we know that everything is a polygon. Everything is a quadrangle. All these things are quads, which is really great. Now we can always test. We can go back into object mode and we can throw a modifier on it and see what it's doing. Put a subdivision surface on it. It's looking pretty cool. All right. And with the subdivision surface on, we can toggle it on and off like so. I'm just going to leave that hanging out in the modifier stack as I continue to model. So, like I did coming up the trunk, I'm going to begin to add myself some edge loops. So Command R, drag that out like so. Going to switch on over to face mode, and same thing. I'm going to extrude a little bit. I'm going to rotate it. Oh, frustrating. I wish I could rotate it on a specific axis. That would be great. Well, you can. You can tap R and then Z, and it'll only rotate on the Z axis. Extrude it a little bit. Scale it down, rotate it on the Z axis, point it in another direction because the extrusion will always come off the normal at 90 degrees. That's what we mean by a normal. Always perpendicular to the face. Rotate RZ. Cool. Extrude. Scale. RZ. Rotate, E, extrude, S, scale. And we can do this forever and a day. And it went down a little bit, but that's cool because it's organic modeling. Maybe the one on the other side, we want it to go up a little bit. Maybe we don't want it to fork perfectly at the same spot, so let's add another edge loop like so. And then we can grab this face here and carry on. Extrude. Rotate. Oh, it's rotating willy-nilly. So I'm going to rotate this on the Z. And then I can maybe rotate it on the Y. Can I do that? Yeah, I can. Point it up a little bit and then extrude it and scale it. And if you don't like where it is, you can always just tap the G key and move it. That's a That's something you can do. And then RZ. And I want this one to go up a little bit, so RY. What about X? Got some ability to do X too. Well, what happens if we tap RYY or escape RXX? We can get into what is called rotating on the global, local, or normal. See the transform orientations up here? We can actually switch these. If I switch this to normal, then what do the axis look like when I tap R, X? Escape R, Y. Interesting. It's actually giving me the axis as though it was stuck directly to the face. Try extruding that now, scale. I got a G, I'm gonna move it over here a little bit. G, I'm gonna move it up a bit. Let's try that again. We're still here under normal. So the transform orientation should use the face of the polygon. So if I said RZZ, ooh, cool. Now I can actually toggle between the two. RZ, so that's the Z on the normals transform. But if I want to go back to world, I tap Z again. This is the way to do it. Extrude, scale. Cool. I'm getting some variability here. Nice. Go back into my subdivision, turn it back on, and take a gander at what that's looking like. Very, very nice. Cool. And what I love about working in subdivision modeling like this is that even though I have over here this set to 1 subdivision, I could turn it up to 2. That's neat. But if I go into edit mode now, watch this. I tap tab, I get to see the original cage, the original geometry before it was subdivided. And that is actually what I'm editing, not the subdivided surface that we're seeing. So for example, if I add an edge loop, Command R, and say this very rounded bottom down here under the bottom of the tree, I'm gonna drag this down. See what happens? It's adding tension to the bottom of my geometry. So I can drag that edge loop down, and it's giving me a preview of how that's going to affect my subdivided surface. And similarly, if I go to edge mode, hold down the Option key. It's interesting that that is not a friendly edge loop to my friend Blender, so I gotta scoot all the way around. Yeah, hold down Shift and Option so I can select all of that stuff. Shift, Option, click. Now watch this. When I scale this out, I get to see something that appears to be the widening of a tree at the base. And I can add another edge loop if I wanted to. Command R. Just to squash that edge down. Very cool. Get a nice, what alludes to like a bevel down below. I can decrease my poly count. Yeah, this is gonna be good. Cool. And I can turn off my subdivisions just to go back to seeing my low poly version. Maybe I want to, over time, start to round things out, add new detail. For example, if I wanted to add a notch in the tree, that's a pretty common thing we would expect to see. So For example, down below, I might want to put a little hole in the tree. Edit mode, so I can start to mess around with my resolution down here and add a little bit more geometry here. I can grab this face like so, and I could inset it. I could move it in, G on X, Y, Z. Yeah, so I could nudge that in and give myself a little indentation there. And have some fun making this a much more organic shape. In X-ray mode, here, this is an important button up here to understand so that we can see through the geometry to the other side. I can make sweeping maneuvers here. I'm gonna go to vertice mode. Say I want to grab this and nudge it over a little bit. Maybe I want to nudge the whole tree over, or scale it all up. Maybe it's too short right now. I could grab in X-ray X-ray mode all of these verts and then G on Z. Oops. See, it's still in normal mode. So Z, Z. Oh, okay, there we go. Then I can move that up like so. Yeah. And make sweeping changes. So if I want these things to start to look like they're nudging over like that, I can do that. Now I can start to mess around with, yeah, I can mess around with the shape of my tree. Make it look a little bit more abnormal. Yeah. But I'm going to leave the tutorial at that right now. What I want to get into in my next tutorial is how to do this. What's this fuzzy ball here? What's this plane? Oh, this one little plane here. What are you doing? Can't really see it unless it's rendered. Let's move it. Let's see what it looks like rendered. Oh, it's a leaf with a transparent background, like a PNG on a single polygon. And then you can apply that single polygon. Oh, cool. Look at that. You can apply that single polygon to a particle system known as hair, and we can just use very, very low polygonal geometry to clone out something that looks beautiful for the things that we're going to need up in our branches, which are the leaves. But for now, just to focus on getting this geometry made for now. Just focus on the tree in low polygon. Took off the subsurf just to make sure that you know what it is I'm looking for. Awesome. Happy modeling, everyone. Chat with you soon.